We're now going to have a look at actually transmitting the information to the HMRC for the year end, and this year it's changed. We don't have a two-step process, it's all done in the one step. So we go to period output, online returns. Now some of you may have already seen this screen for the in-year transmissions of P45, P46, etc. Here we go. So the end of year returns have been put on the right hand side against the in-year movements, and all we do is we click on the P14, P35 button, and it gives us the option of which tax references that we have in our database we want to do. We can transmit them all and it will create separate files for us if we wish. I'm just going to accept this one. I'm going to click continue. This process does take a little while because it has to go through all the file and then reformat all the information in a format that's suitable to go to the HMRC in XML. So it then asks us where we want to save the file, and you'll see here it gives us a structure to the file name. It's P14s and then the tax reference that we're using, the date and time that we created it. Do not change that file name. Just remember where you save it. We'll press save. And now it'll bring up the P35 screen data. You'll see here that it's bringing forward the individual bits and pieces. I can press apply. If I want to make any changes, I make them in this second column. So if I had SMP and I wanted to SSP, sorry, or whatever, I want to take it out, I put a minus figure in here equal to the figure on this side. If I press apply, it moves the figures into the final details, and when I press exit, it gives me the option to say, have you checked the reclaim amounts as they cannot be amended after proceeding. So if I say no, it will go back and allow me to change the recovered and the reclaimed amounts. If I say yes, then it will just move me on to the next screen. Again, I've got the option to change some of these figures. I'm going to apply that and exit. Note here there's a print button for printing these figures off. These figures, by the way, should actually balance your P35 report, plus any amendments that you're doing for reclaims and etc. So then I'm going to exit, and now we have the declaration. Make sure each of these fits correctly, and if we change these, you have to fill in the supplementary box on the right hand side. You must at the bottom say the number of P14 parts sent, which is going to be however many P14 sections you've run. If you're running it through our software, there will only be one. If you're bringing in P35 information from other areas where you may have done it either manually or through another payroll application, then you'll need to add those P14s transmissions onto there. It's not the number of P14s, it's the number of transmissions. So we'll say exit. It says that's okay, that's fine, that's completed, and then we can exit. Yes, I do. So we've now created the files. All I need to do now is transmit the online returns. So this screen will be vaguely familiar to most of you. It's one we used last year and the year before, and it's also the one we used for the in-year returns. The first thing we need to do is add a file. So we'll go to find the file I've just saved. And we'll see there we've got the 538 at 240309, blah blah blah. That's the wrong one. We need to select end of year returns here, and then that will show us all the returns. You see we've got one here for the 26th. We just click on that, say open, and now if this is the first time you've used this routine, you haven't transmitted any in-year files, then you'll need to go into options, into authentication details, and set up your authentication details for accessing the HMRC portal. That's the same as you had for the year end or for your in-year returns. You will also need to go in and change the principal details. You don't have to have the second forename, you don't have to have the fax number, but you do have to have everything else on here, and you must make sure you've ticked this principal. The phone numbers here cannot contain spaces either. So we'll say yes, that's okay. So when we've got the file loaded, we've got all the credentials installed, we click the summary button. Sometimes this takes a little time to reformat, but it will bring up a P35 type listing. And it says, these are the figures that you're proposing to send, is this summary okay to proceed? If you're happy with it, and you can just scroll up and down just to check the figures, we can close that off and say yes, we're okay to proceed. That will light the submit here. Now, because I'm using a test system, I can't submit, but I'm going to use the test button just to show you what happens next. You won't be able to use the test button, you won't see that in actual fact. So you'll get a lot more information than you got last year of it trying to connect to the HMRC. If you get any messages regarding proxy servers, then there are some facts on the website about setting it up and getting through to the HMRC. You'll see here that it says that submission was successful, nothing more to do. If there are any errors, you'll get them listed here, and it will give you a good indication of what the errors are. It will give you the NI number, probably the name, and tell you what field it had a problem with. You then have to go and correct that, redo the extraction procedures, and transmit it again. If you need to, you can print that off. Might be a good idea to print that because it's proof that you actually got through to the HMRC. Having done that, you would then go back in and transmit your P35s in the same way, but we'd select the P35 file that was there. So that's all there really is to it. There's full documentation with the release. I believe the deadline is the 19th of May, or it's certainly around that time. You need to make sure you get your returns in by then. So that's all there is to the year end. Hope it goes smoothly for you, and we'll be in touch.